Go meet this sister here. How you doing?
How you doing?
Jerry Walker, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Nice to have you here. All right. Can you hear me? Good? Okay. All right. If you haven't been here in a little bit, I've gotten a little better with the connection here on this thing. You hear me and I can move it around. So we're going to start, today is going to be on 1 Timothy chapter 3. And we talked a little bit last week at the end of class, had a little bit of time on qualifications. Chapter 3 starts out with a lot of qualifications for elders and for also deacons and basically leaders in the church. One of the things that you'll see, and I've got them listed up here, is that, and I put the Bible verses. One thing I would encourage you to do is if you can download the Bible app on your phone, you can choose what version you want. In other words, like if someone's like, let's say he's up there speaking and he's talking with the New American Standard, I can take this and click that button and it puts my New American Standard version in there so I can follow along. If I'm an English Standard version, I can just type English Standard version. If I like King James, I'll just hit KJV. But I don't have to have 5 Bibles with me all the time. I can hit the version I want on my phone. It's right there. So when you're teaching a class and studying, you guys that know this, already know this, but a lot of times I put this on the overhead for you, but a lot of times we do this and you may not see that. So whenever you say, well, I don't see, my version doesn't show overseers. Well, if you look at chapter 3, verse 2 in Timothy, 1 Timothy, it says, an overseer then must be above reproach. It starts going through all that, those qualifications. Well, here it says overseer, but if you look in the American Standard, it's going to say the same thing. But if you look in the King James and other places throughout the Bible, King James and the New American Standard and the NIV, over in Titus, it calls them elders. If you look at Ephesians 4 and you have a New American Standard, it's going to call them pastors. Sometimes it calls them bishops. In 1 Timothy 3:1, it's going to talk about bishops if you have a King James and American Standard. So, basically, all of those right there wrap up into one thing. You're an overseer. Whether you want to call them an elder, you want to call them a bishop, you want to call them a pastor, you want to call them just an overseer, a shepherd. That's verses that reference all of those right there that we're talking about, okay? And there may be others. Rob, am I leaving something off? Mike here, anybody? If I'm leaving something off, let me know. But that's the ones that I have seen in that verses for. So we're gonna start up. That's a starting point there, just kind of where we're going to go, and then we're going to talk about what are qualifications for elders. And the one thing I would tell you is this: we're going to go through here and talk about what is a qualification for an elder, because there are times whenever we need to fill a vacant spot that's open in the eldership because maybe we don't have, maybe like someone passed, maybe someone's moved, they're not worshiping here anymore, or maybe their health's to where they can't be here and they step out, not for a bad reason, but they step out because time with something else, either their job or their family going on right now. So they step away. But how do we replace that person? What are we looking for in the person or persons that are going to try to fill that role? And these are some of the qualifications up here, okay? So I'm just going to kind of go through these. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each one of them. But when it says blameless, it's not talking about perfect. If we were going to find perfect people to be elders, probably wouldn't have any. Perfect is not what that's saying. It's saying blameless, above reproach. It's saying you're living your life in a way that people recognize that you're focused on Christ. And therefore, you're not doing stuff that's out there that's shady, and they're like, oh, no, I know that person. They're not, no, you can go to church Sunday night, Wednesday, but that's not really who that is. So above reproach is what they're talking about by being blameless. They're not, you're not up for money for evil gain and money. You're not for that, and you're living the life that you're supposed to live. Husband of one wife, and this is just all. If you start right here in verse 2, I'm just going through here, and you can follow along if you want. I've got the American Standard, but I've kind of got them all out here for you unless I left something off. Husband of one wife, temperate, not quick-tempered, That gets a lot of us. And that's something where I go back to number one, blameless. We all have quick temper sometimes. We all say and do the wrong things sometimes. We're just human. But that's not who you are. That's the exception. That's not the rule of how you are. Prudent. Why would we need to be prudent? Somebody have an idea why qualification for an elder would be prudent? I'm sorry? Sensible. What are we dealing with that would affect you? Two things, really. One major thing, but with another thing that's kind of a secondary thing that we deal with that affects you. It's not the primary, but it is a secondary. The primary is what? Your spiritual well-being, right? That's what we're responsible for, is where your soul is, trying to help you on your journey and to oversee. That's the overseeing, is to, when people need help spiritually, to try to be there for that. But what else do we do as elders that would be prudent? What about you in your life? What's prudent in your life that's important that you be prudent about? Finances, okay? Finances. One of the number one problems in marriages from the time they get started, it comes down to finances. It's one that, you live with mom and dad, you're growing up, you kind of have what you have and all that, and you think you know where it all comes from until you get out there and you realize, well, there's a lot more coming in or going out than coming in because you're used to mom and dad. So prudent is, as elders, we get a lot of requests for help, a lot of good requests, but we can't help everything that comes in. We have to kind of look at, when we help in missionary fields and stuff, some things that we think you would want us to do is not just say, oh, that's a good idea, let's send it. We don't even know anything about the person who we're sending it to. And we get letters like this all the time throughout the year from somebody with a name that says, I'm doing this work in such and such, and we don't know them. It would be easy to write a check and just send it right back to the return address and give it up and say, there it is. But that's not prudent because, number one, we don't know who the individual is. Is it really going to go to work, or is it somebody just putting it in their pocket? Okay? So what if it's two good works and you can only afford one of them? Then we look at what's the longevity of the two works, what's the, I guess not say the success, but success is like Baxter. That's been here for a while. They're sending preachers out. They're training them all over Latin America. They're bringing them there, training them, and sending them out. And we have a history of seeing their successes. We have a history of following those ministers back to where they are preaching in those small towns and communities, and the success they're having with baptism, because they write us notes. We're blessed. If we had this in all of these places, it'd be awesome. We have a guy by the name of Bob Young that actually goes to those places and communicates with those people. And so he knows them as people, like I know you as people, and I know those people as names. He knows those people as people. So we have someone who can say, yeah, I've been down to that place. That's a good work. They're meeting in a building there on such and such, and they're having classes and Bible classes. That helps us be prudent because we have some history. So those are things. What about when we need a van or a bus? We don't go get a double-decker tour bus because that's not really prudent. We have to look at what our needs are. So we try to fit things that fit that. So even from, but there are things, there is, to have this facility here that we're blessed with and these grounds, it takes a lot of financial things to keep it going. I will tell you one thing financially, it doesn't take a lot to keep going as much as it's the heart of the men doing it, and that's this lawn. When you pull up and you drive by this lawn down here, our facility here, the building grounds, looks immaculate, doesn't it? Those guys don't get paid anything. That's what they want to do. They would be offended if we offered them. These people do this, they've been doing it. Dave is overseeing it now, and he's got guys that come in here. I don't even know who they all are. I know some of them, but I just know this. I know that those guys do it. They've got their spots they do. They got their mowers that they use. They have their own mowers, so they have their own stuff. But I'm saying they do it because they love to do it. That's a cost we don't have to incur because we have people volunteering to do that. That would cost us a lot of money to have to pay for somebody to come and mow that to look like that, okay? So respectable. to be an elder, you need to be somebody that's respectable. That goes back again, I think, to the blameless above reproach in the community. Goes back to the next one is hospitable. Are you somebody that is approachable? Are you hospitable? Are you looking to help people? Are you someone that people feel like they can approach? Or are you standoffish and you got your stiff arm guard up, even though it's not out there, where you're not approachable? But people can read pretty well. Are you able to, they have to be able to teach. Okay, they can't just fill a spot on the pew. They got to be able and willing to teach. The last one, not addicted to wine or pugnacious. So Chris isn't in here today. Man, when I got this, he's in another class back here in the parlor. I thought pugnacious. I'm defining it. Does anybody know what pugnacious is first? That's it. I knew he would know. I knew he would know. That in the law room, they've got to be a little pugnacious, don't you? Okay. So I looked it up and I thought, yeah, we're gonna get that one. So the definition was eager or quick to argue, quarrel, or fight. You can't be that person being an elder, because you are a family. You are our family. So when someone comes up and says, I think we should do it this way, I can't say, we're not doing it that way. I've got to at least let them explain why they're coming to ask, can we do it this way? And then got to think about it. And if it's scriptural, if it's not scriptural, if it's not prudent, all those things come into play. It's not because Jerry David just doesn't like it today. I just don't want to I don't want to do anything today. I'm a no guy today. Okay? So it's not about that. So next, gentle, peaceable. And I want you to think back, for those of you who have been here for any time at all, and there are some former elders sitting in here. Think about the ones that you have worshiped and have led you on your Christian path. How many of them, when you see gentle and peaceable, think about those people that come to your mind. Because I can think of a few that were that way. That I felt like even though I was never around them very much a lot, like, except my dad and Butto. I've been with Butto and I'm quail hunting and different places, golfing out in Atlanta. We went to Atlanta and played golf out there. Had a good time, didn't we, Butto? Had a good time. My point is, we were out there and we did stuff, but as a Christian growing up, there were men that were in their 80s that weren't in my circle to hang out with, but I felt like I could talk to them about anything. I felt I could approach them about anything that's going on in my life, because they were going to receive me peaceably. They were going to be interested in what I had to say. And I can think of some, Clarence Huggins, gentle, just a good man. And so many on past that. Free from love of money. So people who are not just worried about money. They're free from love of money. Money doesn't bind them. That's not their God. Manage his own household well, keeping his children under control with all dignity. Well, I will tell you that growing up, raising 4 kids, I don't even know really if we count Brooke, because she was a girl and she was always, after those 3 boys, Brooke was just like, wow, she's different than those other 3 boys that Dad would have to take care of all the time when they messed up and did something. It was a little different. I let Vicki take care of, Brooke's discipline stuff on that. Pretty much as Dad, you only had to say things to her, where the boys, you not only had to say things, you had to demonstrate things. And now I'm thinking back, man, my brother once said, he goes, I know this. He goes, is this, because we were doing something, and he said, is that my brother? He goes, because the guy that, when it came bedtime at your house with those boys, he goes, you're that guy? Now you're this guy? I say, well, bedtime was bedtime. Sometimes you have to be a little more forceful. But keeping your children under control with all dignity is not beating them and all that. That's not what that's about. Discipline is not, there's many forms of discipline. I coach, and I can do things. I have found that sometimes to get to the head, I have to start through the feet. So we have to get on the line and run sometimes just to remind them. and it's a team sport, and that we're all going to pay when you don't do things right. So on the court in the game or in softball, if you don't do the right thing, it counts against all of us. So we kind of condition that way sometimes. But not all discipline is the same. I'll give you, everybody thinks, well, you run them all the time, and some of you have daughters in here that played for me, maybe even sons, but and it's hard. I mean, I'm not an easy guy to play for because I'm pretty demanding. I've got my ways on what it takes to be successful, and that's just what we have to do. I always tell them in August that, one, nobody wants to be out here. It's 100 and something degrees, and we're on the track running 90-second quarters. We're running 5 of them. You've got to make 3 of them, but we're running 5 of them. Then we're going to go to the bleachers, and we're going to run the stairs. It's metal bleachers, nice and sunny, lots of reflection, get free tanning, but we're going to run the stairs on the home side because it's higher. And I always tell them, nobody wants to be like you in August and September, but they all want to be where you're going to be in March. They want to be playing for a gold ball. This is what they don't understand. It's the tough, the hard that we're doing now that is what they see gets you in March. Because you have to have the toughness and hard of the fall to get you where you want to get. Same thing with discipline with your kids. Mac will come over. Now, they're not in here. It'll be church day. Mac comes out of their garage, which is my fault, because when they were going to build out there, I said, they already had their house plan. I said, well, the only requirement I have is you have to build that house the other way. Put the garage on our side so I can see the kids playing basketball out there on the court. So they flipped it. Well, so now I'm walking out to go get in the car for church. I look up, Mac's dressed. He's going to get in his car, but he sees Pawpaw. So here he comes across the yard, across the ditch, across the bridge, and Jeff's hauling in and get back over there, and I'm thinking, he just wants to come over and see Pawpaw. You know, we're going to church, but he's all dressed up. He's got to get back over. I get it. So I'm trying to meet him halfway, too late. He didn't listen, and I'm okay with that. He didn't listen to his dad. So he's going to get what he gets. He got what his dad got. I'm okay with that. That man right there, my dad, he's always said, if you discipline a child, you will save their life. Jeff's an example of that. We were at Greenleaf at one time, and how old was Jeff? 3 or 4, 5, 2? Well, we had a bunch of cousins there, and we had an air raft deal with the little boat, basically a little plastic boat. I look up. Have you ever been to Greenleaf Lake over there where the park is? So you know they've got the buoys, and it's got that little bitty dip, little channel over by the marsh and stuff, those weeds. So I look up, and Jeff's from here to the doors, he's drifting out. And it's getting to where it's 12 to 16 feet out there. He can't swim, he's 2 years old. So I jump in, and I'm trying to get to him. Well, the wind's blowing him out farther. And, you know, when you're panicking, you're going nowhere. You're swimming, that's like nowhere. And so there's these 2 older guys who were out there by the buoy. They saw he was drifting. And when I saw I couldn't get there, I just stopped and said, in no uncertain terms, louder than what I'm going to tell you, I said, you better stay in that boat till I get there, and don't you get out of that boat till I get there. You understand me? Because he was up on the side like this looking at me. And he stayed until they got to the boat. What if he wasn't disciplined to mind? And he did what any kid wanted to do. Hey, Dad's right there. I'm in trouble. Let me go to him. I couldn't have got to him before he went under. And finding him in murky water like that would be tough to do. So my point is, that's a real life example of it's not fun. You think you're the bad guy. You think you hurt the feelings. I'll bust Max behind, and it'll be 2 seconds later, Papa, I love you. You know. So they get over it. They understand. But you have to look past that. Okay? As elders, do we ever discipline within the church? Have we ever, anybody, can you remember in times when you were growing up as a kid, it seemed like it's more often than now. But how would we ever discipline the church? Is it out of anger that we discipline? What are we trying to do? Paul talks about over in the first chapter about the guys who were false teachers. He said he gave them over to Satan. What was the whole purpose behind that, though? What was he doing? He wanted to restore them, wanted to bring them back. He wanted them to be away from the body. When someone gets disfellowshipped, the purpose is to remove you from us so you miss us and you miss worshiping here so much that you come back to doing what you're supposed to be doing, to walk in the steps you're supposed to walk in. It's not about, oh, well, we got rid of them. Man, they were bad in our church. Not about that. It's heartbreaking. As an elder, it's not the fun part of what you do. Okay? It's not the fun part of what you do. No different than disciplining your children. It's not the fun part. But it's a necessary part. Dad?
Jerry, I remember many years ago, one of our elders, there was a man who had messed up, and the elders wanted us to disfellowship him. You disfellowship a person, it's as though when you see them, you don't see them. And I recall one of those elders who had been serving for probably 25 years. He met this man on the street, and this man, the elder, just walked past him as though he wasn't there.
Can you guys hear what he's saying? Okay.
But this man had been disfellowshipped, saw the tears, and as a result of that, that man returned to the Lord because he saw the love in a man's heart. And that was the discipline with love in order to get that man's soul back and right with the Lord.
Right. And so you know there's a real example right there. I mean that's coming from a guy that was a former elder, and from another elder. That's the purpose behind that. It's not checking boxes. It's about restoring someone's soul, restoring someone back to the family. That's what we're taught to do. Now, keep all that in mind, because here I'm going to ask you a question a little bit later. On the other one, on L, not self-willed. What would self-willed be? Anybody understand? Anybody self-willed? My way or the highway. You know, in our elder meetings, we meet every Sunday unless something comes up when we can't. We meet every Sunday in there in that room. And for many years, well, he was in there with us in the elder many years, days. Dan was always right there, so we'd always have our conversations. And I think he gave us number 7. Okay? So if there was ever a vote where it was 3-3, you had a 7th. It wasn't like he had always the 7th vote. When we talk about things and we do stuff, it was just always had an odd number. What if you don't have an odd number? We have 6 right now. If we're trying to decide on something and it comes down and it's 3-3 and we got to make a decision, how are we going to decide on that? Well, one we're going to do is we're going to pray about it. Okay? Somebody have something? We're going to pray about it for sure. Yes. And then we're going to try and make what decision we feel like is the best decision for this body with whatever it is we're regarding. That's scriptural. It always comes back to that, and I'll show you here at the end about the scriptural part. So being self-willed, there are people that are that way that honestly, people like that don't need to be in that, because when you go through that door to becoming that role, you have to be selfless. Your focus can't be on you. It's not about you. And I always use coaching stuff and athletic stuff and teaching stuff, but that's what I share with my kids, my teams. It's not about you. Most of the people who come to watch us play don't even have a kid playing. They come because of what you have on your shirt, Fort Gibson, and they want to be a part of it. That's why they're here. It's not just about you. If only people who came were kin to somebody, we wouldn't need the gym size we need, and we wouldn't have very many people there. It's not about that. When you are a Christian, not an elder, when you're a Christian, are you any different? You can't be self-willed, can you? When we, in our daily walk, Steve, you guys are in the real estate business. You have employees over you. We're going to get to that here later. You have employees. You've got employees to look after. He's got a lot of things to think about. He's got his business. He's got his family. And as a Christian, there are things that, it's hard. I mean, as a coach, coaching and stuff, I have to remember who I am first. I'm not Coach Walker first. So I have to be that in mind. So it's no different. This is qualifications for elders, but I would have to say that a lot of these qualifications are not bad just for Christians. I mean, if you look up there, gentle, peaceable, free from love of money. How many lessons are in the Bible on not being a lover of money and what money does and all the different things of that, the distractions that come with that. Next one, not accused of dissipation or rebellion. In our society we live in, we see a lot of that. Seems like that's what always makes the news, is people protesting something or this or that going on. And at the end of the day, as Christians, we know that it doesn't matter who serves as president, representatives, senators, whoever it is. God's in control. God's in control. It doesn't matter. If they change the laws today and say you can't worship anymore, guess what we're going to do? Are we going to worship? We're going to worship God. I mean, we worship God. God's first, okay? If they come in and say, well, you can't build homes anymore, okay? That doesn't affect my worship. That doesn't affect my relationship with God. If they came in and say, you can't, you got to give half your money to the state. Okay, times are going to be tough, but guess what? I'm not here to be a part of this world and stay here. We want to go to heaven. My relationship with God supersedes any demands that come down from states or whatever government. I'm going to be a Christian. I'm going to focus on that. Thoughts on any of that? Okay. So let's go here. Self-controlled, or the next one, not fond of sordid gain. If you're out running poker tables and stuff and you're cheating people, I think that's why, best I can tell, the tax collectors probably pocketed some of the stuff they collected. And if they didn't pocket it because they were taking people's money, they assumed that. We don't think that about our taxes, do we? We just love paying them, right? We just love paying our taxes. But think about these people collecting in person. I mean, when you send your tax stuff in, you just send a check to whatever, okay? This guy's coming by your house to get your stuff, or he's setting up in a place and you're bringing it to him. So you have a face now that you don't like to go with the not paying it, right? And then on top of that, those people might have lived a little better because they had some extra money because they had a job that was kind of important back then. But so even if they didn't live much better than you, you kind of felt like, well, man, they're getting all this money. I bet they're keeping some of it. So you didn't really have a good idea of a tax collector. So not fond of sordid gain. Loving what is good, just, sensible, and devout. That goes back to, I think, being gentle, peaceful, free from love of money, just good things. Self-controlled, holding fast the faithful word. Now the last one, Q, and self-control. How many of you have blown up and said, oh man, I shouldn't have said that, shouldn't have done that? Well, it may have been your kids. You maybe spanked them too hard or something, or you may have got onto them too hard, and then you stepped away for about 5 or 10 minutes. You realized, man, it wasn't that big a deal, And as you get older and have grandkids and stuff, for those of you out here who have grandkids and stuff, sometimes you pick your battles, and you say, looking back, that wasn't such a big deal back then. I made it more of a big deal than it was. And so you try and teach. Focus on the main things, Have your kids, be respectful. I remember if I didn't say thank you, you're welcome, yes, sir, no, sir, Mrs. or whoever, Miss, Mr. and all that, I was in trouble. I got in trouble. Those are okay. Those are good things to teach people mannerly. That's just being well behaved. All right, so let's look at this last one. Holding fast the faithful word. Why would an elder need that? And like I said, that says this is elder requirements. That should be all of us. We all should be holding fast to the faithful word as Christians. So that this is what it says. In Titus 1:9, I'm going to flip over here and let you see this. This is why it is, I feel like this is in here. It says, holding fast the faithful word which is in accordance with the teaching, so that he will be able to both to exhort in sound doctrine and to refute those who contradict. So as an elder, what did we talk about in the very first part of Timothy? False teachers, right? Now think about this. Timothy is in this church with these false teachers. Timothy's not an old guy. He's a young man. It talks about that later. It's going to talk about don't let anybody look down on you for your youth. So he's going in here. How is he going to teach them truth? How's he going to be able to refute what they're teaching if he doesn't know what's right or wrong biblically? Okay? How's he going to be able to exhort people if he doesn't know the Bible? For us as elders, one of the reasons we need to know is so we can pick up on teaching that's false. Because what I say at the very beginning, we're overseers, right? If we have a teacher in that parlor, which I think is Barrett, but if, let's say Barrett was just going off on his own tangent, he's teaching stuff that's not true. What are we supposed to do? Say, well, I don't want to hurt his feelings. No, there's people in that class in there that we're responsible for their spiritual well-being, yes? So what should we do? In love, go to him one-on-one first. And then we've got the steps throughout the Bible. If someone doesn't listen, we have procedures for that. But my point is, my first thing would be going in and saying, Barrett, someone said you mentioned this about this and that. Where are you getting that from? Where's that? Why do you think that? And let him have a chance to say. And then go from there. But my point is, we have to do that because do people come in, false teachers come in, do you think, in this deal and start doing radical things off the bat, or they do gradual shifts? Gradual, isn't it? Because they come in and say, hey, I think you don't even have to come to church anymore. Just don't come. It doesn't say you have to be here Sunday night, Wednesday night. It doesn't say that at all. It just says they met in the homes. Just don't do it. Well, it doesn't say that. But it tells us what they did, and we want to be like the church in the first century. We take what we see and we kind of stay with that biblically. But what if they just said, well, it's not that important to go to Bible class. You don't need it. It's not in the Bible. Bible class is not in the Bible. And then they slip in something and they start going, well, once they get that seed planted, then they plant some other seed. And for people who don't know their Bible, they really don't know where to go to say that's not true. They look and say, well, you're teaching our Bible class. You must know something because they picked you to teach that class. Chris and them picked you to teach class. You must know something. So that's why we have to be able to refute and be able to know our Bible, to know what's truth and what's not truth. Because whatever's taught in that classroom, that youth class, in that class, all those kindergarten, first, second, third grades up, 2, 4-year-olds, all that comes back to us as elders, what's being taught. Because we're the overseers. And all those classes mean something. They're not time fillers. They're not daycare. We're trying to teach even those little ones about the Bible. All right, so, got to get through this. Deacon qualities. I'm just going to walk through them. You're going to see a lot of them are the same thing. Men of dignity, not double-tongued, not addicted to much wine, not fond of solid game. Must be. Let's go to not addicted to much wine, because whenever you see that, you're like, well, I didn't think we could drink alcohol and stuff like that, I'm not getting into that part, but what I'm just telling you is this. Different time period back there on their water qualities and stuff like that. You're going to see later, Paul tells Timothy you need to take a little wine for your stomach, because he had stomach issues. So But on the not addicted to much wine, why would he say not addicted to wine at all? Okay, if it wasn't for them to do. The much wine is what gets into the being addicted to it. So that's why they're not being addicted to wine. You're not going to be an alcoholic. Because if you're that becomes your focus. Must be holding to the mystery of the faith with a clear conscience. Must be tested. If you're beyond reproach, let them serve. How do you test them? We're looking for deacons right now. We're always looking for deacons. We're looking for men that are taking care of their families. They're raising their children. They're here. Bible class is important to them. They're willing to serve. They volunteer to serve in different capacities. We're looking for those, okay? Husband of only one wife, same as the other. Good managers of their children, good managers of their own households. Okay, chapter 3, 15, 16. I'm going to read this right here right quick. It says, and Paul's telling him right here, he says, in case I'm delayed, I write so that you will know how one ought to conduct himself in the household of God, which he's been doing that. He's been talking to us about prayer, about false teachers, talked to us about the law, how Jesus selected him only because basically he was the worst of the worst, and it's a good opportunity to show that even those people can be saved, because he talks about praying for our enemies right after that. But here in 15 it says, so we ought to you will know how to conduct yourself in the household of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and support of the truth. So up here, I define that. It says it's the church of the living God is the pillar and support of the truth. The pillar is a supporting portion of a structure. The temple for Artemis, they say, had 100+ pillars. Must have been an unbelievably big place. But a supporting portion of a structure is the pillar. So support versus pillar within the church. Support would be holding the truth firm and unshaken. Pillar would be holding the truth high so all may see it. Okay? So if you're going to be, that's the thing he's talking about here, is to conduct yourself in the household of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and support of the truth. Therefore, this church to this community should represent the truth. And if they come and worship with us, they should see the pillars of the truth in the way we act and the way we worship. Because we're holding the truth up high. And it matters what we teach. It matters how we do what we do. Because that's what they're going to see. Last part of 3, maybe I can get this in. And that is, by common confession, it's from a Greek word. What that generally means is it's generally commonly accepted, what I'm fixing to say. So if they say by common confession, generally back then what that meant was most people agree on what I'm fixing to say. Okay? So what he's fixing to say is in 16, great is the mystery of godliness. He who was revealed in the flesh was vindicated in the spirit. He was seen by angels, proclaimed among the nations, believed on in the world, and taken up in glory. Who's he talking about? Huh? Jesus. That little 8 to 10 sentences right there pretty much is the Christ right there. That sums it up. I mean, that sums it up. If I would have had that up there, that's what that would have been. That's a concise summary of his life and ministry, is verse 16. Revealed in the flesh, came to earth, vindicated in the spirit, seen by angels, proclaimed among the nations, believed on in the world, and taken up in glory. Leave you with that. Let's have a prayer. Anybody we need to pray for that we didn't cover in announcements today, that's got something going on? Okay. Dear God, we thank you so much for the class we have here, Father, and all the classes that are being taught today. Pray it should be at those that are teaching, be it them in their study and their prep. Father, we pray it should be at those that are hearing. Father, we pray it should be with us each day of our spiritual walk on this planet, Father. We know this is not our home, it's not our final destination, and we pray that we would do the things here, Father, and reach out to those that are lost, be an example to those around us in our communities and our neighborhoods. Father, help us to raise our children in you, help us to raise our grandchildren in you with a focus on eternal things. I pray it should be at this week. In Christ's name, amen.